Hello, friends. Thank you for being here. Welcome to those of you that are new and just joining Come Grow Spiritually with me for the first time. I thank you for being here. I thank you for your curiosity and for giving yourself the space to explore it. For those of you that are coming back, I so appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I'm Pamela of Unimed, a social worker and educator, and now transitioning into holistic practice. And I'm also somebody that lives with brain injury. And the last couple days have been a little challenging, so I'm not as high energy as I normally am. I'm having trouble with my words and my thoughts, but I'm going to do my very best to get through. Today, I'm super excited because I decided last week or so that I was going to start to change the format a little bit. It's been great and it's been fun me sharing my daily tarot practice with you all and explaining the meanings of the cards and that. But I want to provide a more educational base information section to this series, as opposed to just like you watching me learn and me pull for myself. So, today is going to be that first educational video that I'm making. I do want to give you full disclaimer. I do write down and script a little bit and make notes on my laptop of what I want to talk about, how I want to present my material. This helps keep me on track. I need that for even on days where everything feels wonderful, but especially on days like today where I'm having some cognitive issues. They're not big issues, they're just small issues, but they're still issues nonetheless. And I'm still a little self-conscious about it. But anyways, so if it bothers you that from time to time that you are going to see me looking down and reading from my notes, I apologize, and then perhaps this series isn't for you. And neither will any of my online courses be either. Just a FYI. For those of you that don't mind, I appreciate you for being here, and I appreciate you for allowing me to just authentically be myself and own and accept where I'm at. And that's in needing to have a script. Or not so much a script, but like having my information somewhere where I can glance at it from time to time to give it to you in a clear and concise way. So, today we're going to be starting at the very root of tarot, right? So before we start delving into the cards themselves, I think it's important to understand where tarot came from and why they're used today. So the origins of tarot are actually kind of fascinating and a little mysterious. But what isn't in spirituality, right? So the earliest tarot decks that we know about appeared in Renaissance Europe. So like the 15th century, originally as playing cards for a game in Italy. Over time, myth grew that tarot came from ancient Egypt or even from mystical secret societies. While these stories are more legend than fact, they do reflect how deeply people connect tarot with wisdom, mystery, and hidden knowledge. So in the 18th century, tarot shifted from being just a card game into a tool of self-reflection and spiritual exploration and connecting with the divine. Mystics, philosophers, and healers began using cards as a mirror, one that reflects back the patterns of our lives, our emotions, and even our soul's path. Today, many people use tarot less as a way to predict the future and more as a way to connect inward, gaining clarity, perspective, and guidance. So as you get ready to perhaps explore using tarot cards, or perhaps you're already using them, I'm going to invite you to take a moment, either right now and pause this video, or later today, or sometime later in the week, whatever works for you. And I'm going to ask you to reflect on what is the draw to tarot for you, and what do you hope to gain from using it? So for me, I have been on this spiritual path for the last few years. And it's become like a primary focus in my life. I needed this for healing for myself. And I got to tell you, social worker here, worked in trauma healing for majority of my life. And also being on my own healing journey from my own trauma since I was in my early 20s. Okay, I had a baby at 19, and very early on, a social worker or somebody connected to me told me that I couldn't possibly love my child the way my child deserved unless I learned to love myself and heal. And so that started my journey for me at the age of 20, because I was like, I'm going to do everything I can to be the best parent and love this little boy in the best way possible. So my journey has been very long. I'm in my mid-40s, happily in my mid-40s. Got to tell you, my 40s have been my best years, even with the brain injury. So I went on this spiritual journey where I kind of fully surrendered for the first time. And throughout my life, I've had moments where I've explored and connected. I've always been very spiritual. I've always had some spiritual gifts, even as a child, but it was stifled, and it was told, like, I scared people, I made people uncomfortable, like I shouldn't talk about those things. Those were the messages that I got. But a little over 2 years ago, I really felt like I had no choice. Like, all the traditional stuff that I was doing to help heal from this brain injury that I had experienced wasn't enough. Like, it just wasn't working. And at that point, I started to re-explore spirituality, and people came into my life that were like, let me introduce you to energy healing through Reiki and other forms of spiritual practices. And I knew this was for me. And so about 2 years ago, I completely surrendered. And as I said, it's a primary focus of my life. About 4 to 6 months ago, I started to feel pulled and called. Like, I felt this, like, my interest into tarot increasing. I started watching people I follow a couple people on YouTube that do tarot readings. I was going places and I was like seeing tarot decks and I mean, I've been to those places before, but like suddenly tarot was becoming like in my face. And to me, that's a sign from the universe that I need to perhaps maybe explore this, or at least stop to consider. So I felt a call and a tug to more than just play with my tarot decks. And I did have 2 tarot decks prior to this that occasionally I would pull out, and I'd pull a card and not really understand it and not even be sure how to ask a question. But I would just have fun with it. I used to call it like, I'm having fun with tarot. Now I'm learning about tarot. Now I am wanting to understand the meanings and the symbols and things about tarot. So again, for me, I felt called that this was something that I needed to add to my daily spiritual practices. Because spirituality is a journey, and there are going to be moments where you're going to say, okay, all the stuff that I was doing before just kind of feels stagnant now, and you're going to feel called to expand your practices and learn and grow more. So that's the period I'm in. And when I stopped to reflect on what it was that I hoped to gain, I hoped to gain another way to communicate with Source. Okay? Because I'm one of those people where, like, I have learned a long time over my life that things are going to unfold the way they need to. And I'm a stubborn person, and I'm a skeptic at heart. So I need proof, and I'm a planner. Spirituality is very hard for those of us that are planners and skeptics. And very logical minded, right? Like I struggle between that balance of, I have this very logical mind that wants to like evaluate everything and understand it and weigh the facts. And then I'm very emotional as well, that wants to like just go, like, I feel this, so it should be, and I should run with it. So I struggle with those balances my entire life, and it's something I continue to work on. So I am constantly like asking Source, like, what do you want me to do here? Like, what am I supposed to do? Or I recognize that there's signs and signals, like messages coming to all of us each and every day. And I'm aware of them now because I'm open to them. And so as you become more open, you see them for what they are. But I want to understand. So for me, what I hope to gain for this is another way to communicate and understand those messages in a clearer way. What I have discovered within the last month or so that I've been doing daily tarot is the cards are just confirming for me what I already know. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll see me say that. Like, I'll get through a reading or be partway through a reading and be like, yeah, like I already knew this. But I'm still working and learning to trust myself and my intuition and to accept that that's what the message is. So for me, this has been very beneficial because it's allowing me to have that outside validation and confirmation that I still need in this moment in my spiritual journey. Okay, now that we've talked about like the history of tarot and the purpose of tarot, we're going to talk about the most important tool, which is the deck itself. There are hundreds of decks to choose from. Like, there are theme decks, there are like more regular baseline decks, there's beginner decks. There is no right or wrong deck. The deck that is best for you is the one that you feel drawn to. Okay, remember, spirituality is all about that feeling and that intuition. And so, like, if you're feeling called to a deck, that deck is for you. The best suggestion when going to choose a deck is to like physically go somewhere where you can have the option of different decks and you can like pick it up or look at the artwork. I know a lot of them come in cases, so you can't necessarily like open the case and touch the cards. Maybe you can. That's wonderful if you can. But what you want to do when you're going to choose a deck is you want to look at the artwork, right? Does the artwork inspire or resonate with you? So I actually have two decks. This is the first deck that I picked up, and this deck here is a moon deck. And I love the colors. I love the colors of the dark, and I love the gold. So for me, that was, I appreciated that. And so that felt calling to me and right. And because I feel deeply connected to the moon and the moon cycles and the energy of the moon, the fact that this is like a moon-inspired deck really felt right for me. This is the deck that I used to play with all the time. When I would say that I would have tarot fun and I would just kind of pull a card randomly and practice that way. What I found for me is that the sides of the cards are really hard for me to shuffle. And if you're somebody that knows, for those of us that have brain injury or any kind of like mobility impairment things, like I'm clumsy enough as it is. So like I just had a difficult time shuffling. So I decided that I was in need of a new deck. So the second deck that I purchased when I decided I was going to get a little bit more serious about tarot is the typical Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And it's a beginner deck. So, and this I ordered offline. So I got to tell you straight up, I did not have an opportunity to touch these cards. I was able to see the images online and things like that. But I was basically looking for a general starter deck. One where I would be able to do some research into the imaging and learn about the colors and the images in the tarot. Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck is probably like the most commonly known and standard. So it's been a lot easier for me to do research into like the imagery and the colors and things like that. And so this is the deck that I use when you see me do my online tarot because it is easy for me to do the research about the cards and the meanings and like the imagery, as I said. And the theme is traditional, right? Like it's just that traditional standard beginner's deck. And it's smaller size, it's easier for me to shuffle and manage, so I appreciate that. Now, When I feel ready to purchase a new deck of cards, I am going to go into my local mystical store, and I'm going to touch the different decks as much as possible. I'm going to take some time and I'm going to explore the artwork on it. I'm going to look at the themes, and I'm going to just wait and see what calls to me. That is how I would choose my deck. So if you have the opportunity to go and view different decks and touch different decks, then that is the best way to choose a deck. Otherwise, you're going to do your very best to choose one, and then you're going to bond with your deck. Okay? Once you have your deck, you have to think of your deck like you need to form a relationship with it, like you would a new friend. So you got to bond. You have to connect. You have to share energy, I guess, is how I want to put it. So most people start when they get a new deck and they cleanse it. Again, you can just cleanse with smoke. Smoke is the easiest way to cleanse. Some people will put them out in the moonlight. Those are just two easy options that you can have to help you cleanse your deck before you start, especially if it's a used deck. I know that my local mystic shop does this tarot swap and trade, where people can come in and bring decks that they're no longer using anymore and swap it for somebody else's deck. So definitely you just want to clean that energy beforehand. If it's a new deck, you're probably okay, but still, it's always good to clean any of your spiritual tools that you're using on somewhat of a regular basis, because energy stays, right? Okay, next you want to spend time with the deck. So you want to for a few days, carry it around, keep it out where you can see it, pick it up from time to time and just shuffle it while you're sitting and watching TV, right? You don't have to be, you're not pulling any cards, you're not focusing on the deck, but you're just sharing your energy and essentially getting to know your deck. Before you go to use them, it's so important that you set an intention. And I set an intention before each reading. So I always pause for a moment and I take a breath before I pick up my deck or before I start to film my series. And I just invite beings of the light or source or my guides or God or divine, however you frame that realm. And I just take a moment, I take a deep breath, and I invite them in. And I ask them for their insight, their truth, and their guidance. And then I will set the intention by asking what my question is. And if I'm doing a specific spread, you gotta let source know what you're doing, right? I do see people just start pulling random cards. And again, do what feels right for you. But for me, what I found is to have that guidance of understanding what each card means. So if I'm doing a 3-card pull, past, present, and future. So the reason that having an idea and setting the intention of what the spread will be beforehand and the meaning of each card in the spread, it helps you to understand the message. So if I'm doing a past, present, future, and I pull the 3 of Cups, the 3 of Cups may mean something very different. Although the 3 of Cups means celebration, friendship, commitment, joy, and emotional connection, it may have a very different meaning when it's placed in the past versus placed in the future. Does that make sense? Anyways, so it's always recommended that you set the intention of calling in whoever you choose to work with. I always say beings of the light. It's just a protection method. So you just set the intention of calling in source or the energy that you wish to work with and help assist you with the reading. And then you set the intention with the question and you clarify what kind of a spread you're going to do. So we're just going to do a general guidance spread right now. So of course I've already gone in and called in source because I knew I was making this video. But just to give you an example, so I call in all beings of light, my ancestors, my source, God, the divine, universe, any beings of the light that wish to assist in this general guidance in this moment. And the intention and the question that I'm going to ask is, what is the guidance that I need for today? And we're going to just do a simple 1-card draw because today's already been a lot of information. All right, source. So what do I need to know for today? One card, please. There's my card. And we got the King of Swords. So the King of Swords is all about clarity, truth, wisdom, discernment, authority, fairness, and integrity. So the message of the King of Swords is inviting me to step into a clear-minded, wise, and balanced self today. Today isn't a day for making emotional decisions and rushing forward blindly. Instead, I'm being called to pause, gather the facts, and approach situations with logic, fairness, and integrity. So again, this is perfect for me because I have recently been having some struggles with my brain injury, leftover residual struggles that I deal with. And I need to become more clear-minded about making a focus and creating a routine of how to take care of myself physically while I start stepping back into my career stuff and increasing the work that I'm doing. All right, friends, so thank you for joining me. This was the first more educational type video that I'm going to do in this series, so I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear your comment and feedbacks. Is this something that you appreciated? Should I continue to make more of these educational videos? I hope and plan to, so I hope that that's the response that I receive. The next one that I'm going to do, the next more educational type video, is we're going to talk about the structure of tarot, right? There's 78 cards, and they're essentially broken into two categories, the major arcana and the minor arcana. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the archetypes and like everyday experiences, and just get a little bit more familiar and have more knowledge about tarot so that you can continue to use it in your daily practices on your growth to becoming more spiritual. All right, I thank you so very much for joining me. I wish you a very blessed day, friends.